Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we are diving deep into another new story. Woman kills her roommate and then puts Mountain Dew all over her body in order to hide DNA evidence. And so we're going to be diving into this story and what we know at this time. A woman stabbed her elderly roommate to death. 79-year-old Michael. Such a tragic story. Michael Cerasoli still had so much life to live and give. And this woman stabs him to death before dousing herself in Diet Mountain Dew in order to erase his DNA off of her body. That is what police are claiming. Nichole Max, 35 years old, has been arrested in Florida for allegedly killing her 79-year-old roommate, beating and stabbing him to death in their home that they shared together. She then sets the house on fire, trying to conceal evidence, and fled the scene shortly after. That is what investigators are alleging that has occurred at this home. She has been charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of tampering with evidence, and 1 count of resisting arrest with violence in the slaying of Michael Cerasoli. Rest in peace, Michael. Authorities in Daytona Beach, they responded to an emergency call at 1:46 on the morning on July 1st of 2023 regarding a fire being at the home. And so firefighters, they put out the fire, and then they discover the body of Michael Cerasoli face down on the floor in his bedroom on the home's second floor. And according to documents that have been shown out there, I did not find it, but according to New York Post, Law and Crime, and others, they have seen these court records. And the victim appeared to have suffered blunt force trauma to the back of his head and multiple stab wounds. Police that rushed to the scene, they recovered a bloody knife near the victim's body and 2 cell phones, while blood spatter was also located on the walls. And this is why this was, of course, closed off while they seek further investigation, which also led them to the roommate's room. And so police, they said that one of the phones belonged to Max, who was not home at the time. Then about 3:30 in the morning, a detective spotted her. Now, you can see this home. This is the second floor of this home. And up on this home is where he was, where their rooms were. And this is also where he was found. And so she has since been arrested, no bond for Nichole Max. And the detective that, police said that one of the phones belonged to her, Nichole Max, and she was not at home at that time. But then about 3:30 in the morning, a detective spots Max walking barefoot near a restaurant in Holly Hill. This is the restaurant Crystal. When he made contact, she allegedly dropped a knife and a hammer while in his presence. He sees this for himself. And the detective noted that Max appeared to have blood on her leg and on her ripped shirt. As she was being questioned by police, Max reportedly gave contradictive statements. At first, she said that she was living on the streets for the past 4 years. She was then shown a photo of Michael Cerasoli, and at first she denied knowing him. But then, after she was pressed a little further, she then admitted that she had been living with him. But again, she denied having seen him on that day. But later, she said she was at home with him earlier. So she kept contradicting her own self. And so, due to her inconsistent statements, that raised a red flag to the detectives because there was no consistency about her relationship to the victim, about her knowing the victim, about whether she seen him that day, and so she was taken into custody. She then claimed that she'd never been in the victim's room, but would sometimes go to the second floor of the home in order to feed her spiders, putting her in that vicinity. And so they both took care of these spiders, right? They both fed these spiders. Now, she initially denied having a knife and hammer on her when spotted by police before allegedly confessing to actually possessing those items. And when asked about the fire, police said that Nichole Max became agitated, and then that is when she asks for an attorney. Later, police tells Max that, "Hey, we have a warrant and would like to take a sample of your DNA." She then requests a Diet Mountain Dew, which they oblige, right? This is one of their techniques to, soften her up, let her guard down a little bit so that they can continue questioning her, get what they want. And so they want to act like they're her friend to let her guard down. And so, of course, sure, you want a Diet Mountain Dew? We will give you a Diet Mountain Dew. The affidavit, it then states that Max begins to procrastinate while drinking the soft drink. And so she's like taking her time. She opens it up, squish, open it up, right? And then a detective says, you're just messing around here. We just want to get your DNA. And so this detective attempts to grab the can of soda from her hands. She then begins to resist. That's where the resistant arrest comes in. She then begins pouring the can of soda all over her body and hair and pulling away from officers in her attempts to interfere with the possible evidence on Max's body. Max then began pulling and kicking officers while trying to secure Max in the vehicle. And due to her actions, she was charged with tampering with evidence and resisting arrest with violence because she was fighting the cops. And detectives said that the DNA from blood on the knife that was found next to the victim, which this knife was found on top of the phone, like literally balancing itself on the phone. Did she forget? Why would she allegedly leave the knife balanced on the phone? And so detectives, they said that the DNA from blood on the knife found next to the victim matched the sample taken from Nichole Max. And now she is being held without bond, and she is scheduled to appear in court for her arraignment on September 5th. Now, we do not know if rinsing with Mountain Dew can actually conceal DNA evidence. And so, a recent study from North Carolina State University, it did show that sucralose, which is a chemical found in the popular zero-calorie sweetener Splenda, that it can actually damage DNA when it is consumed. And so I don't know how she knew of this, if this what kind of actual truth is behind this. I am not a doctor. I cannot share much. But firefighters, they were called to this home on the 600 block of Clark Street on July 1st. And so clothes on the second floor had actually been what was set on fire. And so the Volusia County Sheriff's Office told Fox News Digital, but said that they had no additional investigation on the arson investigation. And that's when they quickly extinguished the flames, and that's when they find Michael Cerasoli lying face down in a blood spattered room. And they do know that he suffered blunt force trauma to the head and stab wounds to the torso. Now, the dead man's landlord told police that Max was his other tenant, but the woman was nowhere to be found. And that's when the detective would later find. But you see, you had these two cell phones that were recovered near the 79-year-old's corpse. One belonged to the victim, while the other, which had a bloodied knife balanced on top of it, that one that the knife was on top of, that belonged to Nichole Max. And then again, as I shared, less than 2 hours later, that's when police spot her while she's barefoot with blood on her leg and a ripped shirt outside the Crystal restaurant in which, Holly Hill, that's a nearby community. So she did not go very far at all. And so, that's when they start tiring her into all these lies. She was evading questions about her recent whereabouts, where she lived. First she pointed in a direction and saying she lived right over there, which was nearby a pawn shop. And then she claimed that she had been living on the streets for the last 4 years. And so that's what I mean. Like, she was not being forthcoming, and so it's like when you look at what she was maybe into, where she was possibly in other trouble. I did come across a couple of a couple different things, so, like, she is said to have, this looks to be her, this Nichole Max in Volusia County. I don't know if you watch OP Live, On Patrol Live. One of their standing offices, one of the one of the departments that they cover a lot is Volusia County, Florida. And so once I heard Volusia County, I was very familiar with this. But when I look at these other two, she had one on March 10, 2022, state of Florida files and other criminal lawsuit against Nichole Max. And so I'm still learning a lot of this, but the judge in this case was Leah R. Case and the defendant Nichole Max. I don't really know what Bob Barry bail bonds really means. Plaintiff attorney, Joseph Ladone, that's the plaintiff. The defendant attorney, her attorney, Brian Heyer. There's another case. See, that one was in March 10th of 2022. There's another one before that, 2 years before that, on August 4th in, again, Volusia County courts. This one has two judges, it looks like, maybe Cromartie and Brian Feigenbaum. And so defendant Nichole Max, plaintiff attorney, and a defendant attorney, the different one. Now, I didn't dive deep into that. I'm not signing up for all that stuff. But from what I can tell, that looks like some other past history on this Nichole Max. And so it does not look like this is the first time she's been in trouble. But what do you know about this Mountain Dew being able to get rid of evidence, DNA evidence? Do you think that this is an actual true thing? We don't really know, but we do know that this man, Michael, needs and deserves justice. This is an early ongoing story. This just happened July 1st. It's only hitting the news. This is like, I've heard it a few times. And so at the end of the day, Michael Cerasoli deserves justice. This he did not deserve. And now we will wait to find out what